Good evening, good evening, good evening. Yes, Seema. Good evening, good evening. Champaran would be first non-cooperation. Good evening, good evening. Yes, Jallianwala Bagh today. Home Rule League, Annie Besant, Tilak try to come an offshoot out of INC, does not work. Two Home Rule Leagues, Annie Besant and Tilak. Gandhi comes, destroys their base. We will discuss that. Today we have to discuss 3 to 4 very, very important things, extremely important things. First, we have to discuss Government of India Act. They break rules. They don't break rules. They don't cooperate. Government of India Act 1919, Montague Chelmsford reforms. Then we have to discuss Rowlett, Jallianwala Bagh. Then we have to discuss non-cooperation, Khilafat. So small areas. But this is a very important, very, very important topic. These are movements, they still can be a little bit up down. But Montague Chelmsford hierarchy, understanding of hierarchy is critical to understand. Too many changes under Montague Chelmsford. This is the second last major thing. After this, it will be Government of India Act 1935. We have already discussed 1773, 1784, 1784, 1813, 1793, 1833, 1853, 1861, 1892, 1909. Today we have to discuss Montague Chelmsford. Surya, you can use it as a form of revision after class. Why are there detractors about? What do you mean by that? Detractors about Gandhi in recent times. Detractors meaning people criticize Gandhi. Well, people have nothing to do, so they have to do something. Yes, Bimre, that was a standard thing. That was a standard thing. Lucknow Pact, all the three factions come together: moderates, extremists, Muslim League in the INC. We'll refer to Lucknow Pact. Don't worry. We wait one more minute. Okay. Can we start, everybody? We'll keep on joining in. I want to discuss one very small point before we do. So before we go into Montague Chelmsford, I had not discussed about the viceroys till this point of time. So you obviously don't have to learn the years of these viceroys, but there needed to be something which you need to have. So see, I have discussed about Curzon, I've discussed about Minto, Harding, and today we'll be talking about Chelmsford. We'll be talking about Chelmsford. Previously, Canning, if you remember, was the first Governor General and Viceroy of India. And in between, the people who have not referred to, for example, Elgin, Lawrence, Mayo, Northbrook, Lytton, Ripon, Dufferin, again, in the context of INC, we've referred to, and Lansdowne and Elgin too. The simple point is that the ones I've encircled, you should know that they come in that order, which is C, D, thereafter Kuminto, Harchel, If you can remember it like this, or you can remember it like, one second. Simple, very simple thing, which would be Kadu, Kumin, Harchel. If you can remember this, you can remember it generally. So Kadu, Canning Dufferin, Curzon Minto, Harding Chelmsford. Right? Minto as it is, you will remember because of the Morley Minto reforms. And Chelmsford because he is important for us for today, which is Montague Chelmsford. So I hope I can expect you to remember these three words. Yes or no? You will. Don't have to remember the years. If you remember this, you don't have to remember the years. You need to know the sequence. That's it. Right? Okay. Now, we have to cover a certain timeline, but the timeline today is very, very. Do we need to write names, Lord and all? If you don't write it in the examination, no problem. Now, today we have to cover a very complex timeline. So I will make that timeline for you right now. And in a way that the timeline has a lot of events, So we will start. We'll start. And basically, because we are covering two big movements together, this timeline will be a little bit of a heavy timeline. We start in 1914, then go to 1915, then go to the year 1918. And for 1919, we have to open up the timeline, which is April 1919, then 6th April 1919, thereafter 10th April 1919, then 13th April 1919, and then 18th April 1919, and then we will have August, September 1919, and the first story stops here. And the second story again starts with December 1919. Then you have January 1920. Then we have vis-a-vis January. The first January 1920. Then we'll have January 1920 generally. Then we'll go into 1st August 1920. And after 1st August 1920, 31st August 1920. From there, we go to September 1920, then December 1920, and last is 1922, 5th February, 5th February 1922. So this is basically our timeline today. And in this, we have First World War begins, Defense of India Act 1915, destroys Gadar movement, and thereafter we also have one year 1917, which is called Montague Declaration. August Declaration it is also called. Then 1918, Germany will surrender. World War I stops. April 1919, we will have a very important thing which will be introduced in India, which is called the Rowlatt Act. Introduced. Thereafter, 6th April is called the Hartal Day of Rowlatt Satyagraha. Then 10th is called the Amritsar violence. 13th is called Jallianwala Bagh massacre. Rowlatt Satyagraha will be withdrawn. And August, September, you have the Montague Chelmsford reforms or Government of India Act 1919. December 1919, we have Treaty of Versailles or Versailles as you call it. This is Treaty of Sevres. And from January 1920 onwards, you will have the concept of the Khilafat issue. The Khilafat issue. 1st August 1920, we will have Khilafat taken up by Gandhi. Thereafter, Gandhi. Then Bal Gangadhar, or rather, we'll not talk about that. We'll just say INC informal approval to Khilafat and NCM. September 1920, we have the Calcutta session. INC, Calcutta special session. INC adopting what we call as non-cooperation resolution. This is the Nagpur session. INC launches non-cooperation, and this is called Chauri Chaura incident. This is basically what we have to cover. How to remember these dates for long? Revision. Was Gandhiji ever a member of the INC? In between he was. In between he was given honorary membership. Then he will become in 1925 the president also once. Sir, had moderates started to believe in Purna Swaraj? Then after. Lakshya, you don't know what Purna Swaraj means, so don't talk about it. Purna Swaraj 1929 you're bringing in right now. We'll discuss that. Now, one thing is very, very clear. You'll not get these things anywhere generally. So please use these timelines well. If you are scared of it, I am not asking you to learn it. But if you effectively can create a chain of ideas or a chain of what we call as events, it becomes easier to understand generally. Now, see, in this whole story, there's one odd one out, which is called Montague Chelmsford Reforms, Government of India Act 1919. What I want to do is I want to discuss Montague Declaration, Montague Chelmsford, and then I want to go into the political history. Because Government of India Act 1919, at least 5 to 6 questions can be made, which is because it is a very, very heavy act and has a lot of changes. And you are fresh right now, so I want to do it right now. Though it is happening after Jallianwala Bagh, I want to discuss it before I talk about Rowlatt Satyagraha generally. So my story will start with constitutional history, and thereafter I will go into the political things from Rowlatt thereafter forward. Yes? Did not understand climate classification. Prasad, go wrong class. You are in history right now, not geography. How to remember these dates? Just have to, it's not a lot of dates. It's only 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. 19 only 6th, 10th, 13th, 18th. Thereafter 19, 19, 19, 20, 20 only to 1st, 31st. September, December. That's it. I will give you a master timeline when the course ends. If you can remember that one, it's good enough. But 13th April 1919, you have to remember. Jallianwala Bagh date, you have to remember. 6th April, you have to remember. If all of you have now digested what we have to do today, I would like to start with Montagu, carrot stick policy, and Montagu Chelmsford reforms. Can we start that? Are we clear? Okay. And for the next 10 to 15 minutes, and generally I want you attentive. Don't care climate or clouds you're understanding or not. Just be very, very attentive, because this is going to be like a game changer. Because if you understand 1919 hierarchy, this is the hardest act to understand, because too many changes are happening generally. Now let's start with what we call as carrot stick policy on Montagu, or Edwin Montagu's statement. Now see, if you look at this timeline, you will realize that Montagu's declaration comes in 1917 and the act comes in 1919. So for 2 years, there is an exact gap of 2 years. And this is a very interesting policy which the British followed. Now, if you had asked, for example, Morley, who was the Secretary of State, if you had asked Secretary of State Morley that what is your purpose in India, he would be very blatant in saying one thing very straightforward, which is that our purpose is here to rule India. No form of representative government or training we are giving. Training of governance we are giving. Basically, representative government means, or what we call as popular government means, a government run by Indians. Government run by Indians. So between 1909 and between 1919, for these 10 years, if I'm asking for Swaraj, am I doing sedition or am I not doing sedition? Sedition is to go against the state and do something against the state generally, or entice dissatisfaction. So am I doing sedition? If I'm asking for Swaraj as the Anushilin Samiti, as anybody, I am being a seditious personality. Because Morley and Minto are very clear that we are here to rule, we are not here to give you anything. And if my target between 1909 to 1919 is that I am asking for Swaraj, I'm fighting for Swaraj, I'm fighting for self-rule, I'm trying to do assassinations in the name of self-rule. If my protest is on the self-rule concept, the British will take that very loose definition of sedition and apply to you. That this person is a seditious person because he is asking that the British government should be gone. So you are doing treason, you are doing Rashtradroh against the state, right? Which is the concept that Swaraj is self-rule. So if you're asking for self-rule and they have no plan for it, it is an act of treason. So Morley was very clear. Morley was very clear what they wanted out of this whole relationship, which is rule. Now, between 1909 and 1919, there have been multiple instances of problems also, which is, in this period we have seen assassinations. It is also the period of Harding's bombing. The British have also moved to Delhi now. The fact that the Ghadar movement had become a problem. The fact is that nationalism is rising. So now when the Secretary of State Edwin Montagu comes to power, a reporter asks him, what is your purpose in India? What is your purpose in India? So Montagu for the first time says that the ultimate purpose of British in India is to give representative government to the Indians. And he very categorically said that if somebody is asking for Swaraj, Swaraj is not sedition. It's not sedition. And this is a totally 180 U-turn of the Secretary of State, because he is saying a very big thing. So as to quote, the government policy is an increasing participation of Indians in every branch of administration and gradual development of institutions with a view to the progressive realization of responsible government in India as an integral part of the British Empire. Now, the catch here is integral part, which means that he is talking about Swaraj within the British. Within the British, what Dadabhai Naoroji had asked, right? What Dadabhai Naoroji had asked, exactly opposite to what the Home Rule League movement is asking, which is we want to rule on our own. And very simply, he said in a very important line that the demand of the nationalists for self-government, home rule, will not be seen as sedition, since the attainment of self-government for the Indians has now become government policy, unlike what Morley had said, where there is no intention of self-government to India. This is a very big change in British policy. This is basically, for example, a person who has said that I will never drive a car, saying that I will drive the car today. The fact is that the government of India, the British government of India, and Morley is saying that now the India House works to make sure that we will give progressive, responsible government to the Indians. But if you realize something, do you understand the importance of this line? Do you understand the importance of this line? How there's a U-turn between Morley and Montagu? How Morley said that Swaraj equals to sedition, and Montagu says Swaraj does not equal to sedition, because now we also want to give self-rule only. We also want to give self-rule. Are we clear about this? How Morley and the Montagu declarations are totally opposite to each other within 10 years. Yes? Come on. A lot of you are still joining in. I will presume that you know what Montagu said. Okay. Now, the question which comes is that when, how, in what form will you give us Swaraj? Montagu does not say anything. Montagu does not say anything. Morley and Montagu both are Secretary of States. Morley was very clear, we are here to rule, no self-government. Montagu says we are here to rule also, but we will also give self-government to the Indians, and we will make them a part of the British Empire as a self-ruling area. The difference between Home Rule League and the what Montagu is saying is Home Rule League is ambiguous or more or less clear about self-rule. What Tilak sees is outside the empire. They are saying inside the empire, but that differentiation is not very obvious. What is more important is that in what form will you give us? When will you give us? How will you give it to us? These questions don't ask a Britisher. So basically, I have said to you that I will meet you very soon. When? How? In what form? I'm not telling you. So this is called basically a lollipop. It's a literal lollipop. Big lollipop was given to the Indians that see self-rule. ये खाने को मिलेगा. You will get to eat this lollipop very soon. So the point was that the nationalists were very clear in saying there's no specific time frame. You have not decided what nature, when will you give it to us, and what is your form of self-rule. We have no idea. Now, this lollipop was needed because the World War I was still going on. And Indian soldiers were needed to be fighting in the British army. So this is basically a selfish statement given by Montagu. Because in the background, the First World War is still active. Montagu's declaration actually is nothing but a type of lollipop so that Indians remain engaged in the war. But if I look at the larger strategy, Montagu sent this in August of 1917. He wanted Indian support in 1917. 1918 war will end. And between 1918 and August of 1919, when the Government of India Act 1919 was going to come, in between the British will bring in Rowlatt Act and do what is called as Jallianwala Bagh. Now this is called, according to historians and to a strategy, carrot and stick policy. Carrot and stick policy means they will, or you can call it lollipop and stick policy. You give the Indians a lollipop, carrot. Then comes the way of disciplining. They've disciplined us. And then again, take the lollipop. So basically, this is a proper mother's strategy. Literally every mother in India follows this. She will ask you to do something, you will not do it. So she will say, I will give you a chocolate. Now, because you are going to get a chocolate, now she will discipline you. Don't do this, don't do that. In the name of that chocolate, she will make you do a lot of things which you would not have done. And once you have basically done everything, now you take a chocolate. Or chocolate, you become too over smart. One big slap comes, and then once you start to cry, chocolate. This is standard. This is called carrot stick policy. That if you start to become too overactive, the stick will come. The British have done this forever. Which is trying to pacify Indians from time to time. I'll give you one more example, not from here, but for further. For example, Second World War was happening. British support was needed. Hitler was killing Britishers by the dozens. The carrot came. August offer. Then they did not need Indian support. So Lithgow said, I don't need anybody. But then again, Japan became very aggressive. Cripps mission. See, we want to give you something. Then again, Churchill took it back because he knew he was going to win the war. So the fact is that they will always keep on doing this. Carrot, stick, carrot policy. So what we see through Montagu's declaration is the fact that if the British were ready to give a concession, the concession came, but it was already too late. It is already too late. In August 1917, he says that I will give representative government. And you will see, I will show you what he actually gives in 1919. After killing 5,000 people, that was still not enough. I will revisit when I've covered the whole section, but I'm trying to preempt for you something, which is there's a pattern here. Here, if you look at the timeline, you will realize something. Here is the carrot, here is the stick, here is the carrot. So, carrot, stick, carrot. This is what they follow. This area, which is called as the area of Rowlatt Satyagraha Jallianwala Bagh, was such a big disciplining that this Montagu-Chelmsford reform will seem as just a very simple, straightforward concession. Right now in 1917, Montagu would kiss every rationalist saying, no, no, Swaraj is what we want. And by 1919, Rowlatt Satyagraha was very simply targeted towards the revolutionaries. So if you allow me, I have shown you a 360 turn in from Morley to Montagu. I want to discuss Montagu-Chelmsford reforms and then go back to the story, discuss Rowlatt, Jallianwala Bagh, Khilafat and non-cooperation in Chauri Chaura. Can I do that? I want to first discuss the constitutional history. I need a lot of cooperation from you here because it is a little bit difficult because it's technical. Multiple changes are going to happen. Offer people things in order to persuade them to do something, then punish them if they refuse to do so. Perfect. That is the exact definition of Anushka, which is like carrot and stick policy. Offer something, get support. Once they have you got the support, you then give them the stick. Then again, if they start to not cooperate, then give them the carrot. Okay. I want everybody's yes because now we embark on a very important concept. For everybody, for most of the students, this concept of hierarchy is a bird which is called hierarchy. They never understand it. They don't understand the concept itself. All of these are British Crown planned. Yes, British Crown is involved. I give you a minute, gather your thoughts because now I want you to become very, very attentive. Something very significant we are going to discuss, which is Government of India Act 1919 Morley Minto. Montagu Chelmsford. Okay. Now, when I stopped at Indian Council Act 1909, which is called Morley Minto, the following was the structure. Secretary of State plus 15 members, India House, under him Governor General of India plus or what we call as and Viceroy, Central Legislative Council, Executive Council, Governor, Madras, Bombay, Bengal, the Punjab sector, Awadh, and North Western province. Each of them having their provincial legislative council. So here, Central Legislative Council, law making for whole of India, and Provincial Legislative Council, law making for the province. It's called Morley Minto because Morley was the Secretary of State, Minto was the Governor General. This is the structure. This is the structure, yes or no? Some of you will act like you've never seen this structure, but I will ignore that because I've done this in a lot of detail last class. And the biggest point was what was introduced his was separate electorates for Muslims. I've answered you. Morley is the Secretary of State. Minto is the Governor General of India. Now there are two things which will happen separately. Now pay attention. 2 members in the India House, this and that. Okay, that is okay. Perfect. Now there are two things which will happen separately. Montague claims fort. It will do two things. There will be structural changes and there will be jurisdictional changes. Jurisdictional division. Now, ironically, for these changes, structural changes were needed. So remember that any change which I will show you in structure first is needed because jurisdictional division was going to happen, specifically legislative. Now, for the Americans and the Shakespearean class, legislative jurisdictional division, I will tell you what it means. So don't worry about that. First, understand the structural changes. Now, under the Government of India Act 1919, the first thing was that British India was now interacting with a lot of different countries. So they believe that the Secretary of State has too much power and Secretary of State is already too much overworked. So in London, Secretary of State plus his 15 members, Secretary of State plus his 15 members, together called the India House, foreign, what we call as diplomatic duties are removed from the Secretary of State and given to the High Commissioner of India in what is called the High Commission of India. This has happened in London. Basically, diplomatic and foreign relations transferred from Secretary of State. So basically, see the division as Home Ministry and Foreign Ministry. Home Ministry and Foreign Ministry. They have removed the foreign relations of the British India from the power of the Secretary of State. Too much load was there on the Secretary of State. They've removed it. Now, this is happening in England. Very simple, straightforward thing, but very significant thing. Now, in India, something will change very fundamentally, which has an impact till today. You will have Governor General of India and Viceroy. And as of right now, there is a governor under him. And governor, I already imply Madras, Bengal, because the composition did not change. Bombay, you have Awadh, the Punjab sector, the northwestern province. So I am not trying to complicate it right now because this division does not change. So when I say governor, I mean all of these governors. And under the governor, you already had the, which I'm coming to, is the legislative council. So I hope you understand what I mean by governor bracket. I'm clubbing this concept itself into governor. Now, the first big change happens here, wherein bicameralism is introduced in legislature, meaning that there is one executive council. But now, how today we have two houses of parliament, which is basically a product of the Montagu-Chelmsford reforms. We will have two houses of legislature, one called Central Legislative Assembly and the other one called the Council of States. Uni means one, bi means two. So basically, now there was only previously one house of legislature. Now there are two houses of legislature. This is the first one. This is the second one. The first one is the parallel of Lok Sabha, and the second one is the parallel of the Raj Sabha. So bicameralism, this is the first change which happens. This is the second change which happens. Bicameralism is something which is introduced through the concept of Government of India Act 1919. And there's a reason for that, which I will tell you why. So do we understand the first two changes? Addition of a High Commissioner of India and bicameralism at the center, which is legislature has been now divided into two. Anybody has any issue here, you tell me. Cameral means house, uni means one, bi means two. High Commissioner of India is nothing but the foreign minister to India now. Secretary of State had all the functions, like the Board of Control and Code of Directors. How Code of Directors was just created with commercial functions. Here, Secretary of State will have all administrative functions, but diplomatic foreign relations with the other countries which are in Southeast Asia, High Commissioner of India is going to manage. Are we clear about this? Because there's one more major change which is going to happen. Then I will discuss about you that. The third one. Gaurav, when was the national anthem sung first? I will tell you that. Listen to me. Issue is different. So pay attention, because then I'm not going to answer any question related to this. Judiciary system not created, because judiciary has nothing to do with the Governor General of India. High Commissioner will manage foreign relations. Today, all ambassadors are called High Commissioners, because this word comes like that only. Two changes: diplomatic relations have been separated from Secretary of State and given to High Commissioner of India. And Governor General used to have only two houses. Now he has three houses under him: Central Legislative Assembly, Council of States, Executive Council, two houses of legislature, bicameralism. I want everybody's yes, then we move forward. Diplomatic relation means that you have foreign relations, international relations. Okay. Now the next biggest change is that now governor also gets an executive council. He already had a provincial legislative council. Now, for the first time, he gets an executive council. And there's a reason for that, because hierarchy is only possible if you have an executive council at governor, which I'm coming to. There are three major changes here. Executive council added to the governor, bicameralism, and high commissioner. To simplify this very simply, you have very simple, straightforward simplification. Secretary of State, High Commissioner of India, High Commissioner of India, and thereafter Governor General of India and Viceroy. I will tell you what is the hierarchy. Pay attention. Everything will be told. Just be patient. When I ask you to say yes, just say yes. That is more than enough what you're doing. He has Central Legislative Council, or rather we call it Central Legislative Assembly. Central Legislative Assembly and Council of States, Executive Council, and Governor, under whom we have Provincial Legislative Council and Executive Council. Can anybody tell me an equivalent to an Executive Council in, or a member of an Executive Council today? Give me a very simple example. A person who's like in the Executive Council, Governor's Executive Council. Very good. Chief Minister. Chief Minister is the head of the executives of the people at the provincial or the state level. Beautiful. Very good. Now, there are, as you can see, 1, 2, and 3 changes. Now, if you have it in your system, you ask me right now, because this is the structural changes. A new house is added, bicameralism is there, and a new body has been added to the governor. And this is the new structure created. This is the new structure created. Because half of the story is only done. Are we clear about this? If you are, then I talk about the second major change. I told you that there are 2 changes. I have told you the structural changes now. 2 executive councils. No, there's only 1 executive council. 1 executive council for the governor, who is, for example, Governor General of India, which is like the Prime Minister, and the other one is the Chief Minister, in that sense. Is it in India or England? What is in India or England? This is in England. This part is in England. This should be fundamentally clear by now. But still, if this question is coming, please revisit some of the videos back. This is only England. And this is all in India. I presume that this much you should know by this point of time. Indian members in Central Legislative Council, all of that I will discuss with you later. Trivial points, don't discuss with me. If you know them, 100 out of 100, Lakshmikant, you know. But I want to discuss something more important, which is the second change, which is much more complicated than this one. Structural changes. Does anybody have any issue in this? Everybody's no comes, then only we move forward. Okay. Now, I will say a statement and you will tell me what is the incorrect thing which I said. I'm going to say a statement. I'm only checking something. Just today in the morning, the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha passed a bill for Rajasthan's irrigation system, under which irrigation now will be done through certain cities. What is the problem in this statement? Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha has passed a bill on irrigation of Rajasthan. What is the issue in this? You can change that irrigation to education. You can change that to police, or you can change it to, for example, the basic toll tax. What is the issue here? Very good. Basically, you are telling me that there's a jurisdictional contradiction here. This is called legislative jurisdictional contradiction. Means the center cannot make a law for something which the state has been empowered to make the law. Basically, center cannot make a bill in the state list. It can only do it in the union list. Yes, this is what I'm saying. That in India, we have 3 lists. We have three lists: union, state, and concurrent. And the residual powers are with the union itself. If something is written in the state list, the union government cannot legislate on it. And if something is in the union list, the state cannot pass a bill. For example, I'll give you one more statement and you will understand it. That the Karnataka Legislative Assembly passed a resolution with regards to the relations with China on the Uttarakhand border. Now, what is the issue here? What is the issue here? That foreign relations falls under the union list and a state cannot legislate on a union subject. All of this is making sense, perfectly making sense. Defense, finance, for example, international relations, these are things which are under union list. So they are basically breaking. So what the constitution has done, pay attention, what the constitution has done as that it has created jurisdictions. This is what is a jurisdiction, right? That this is your power, this is how much you have, this is the state's power, this is the center's power, this is the power which is dispersed to both. Concurrent is the union can also do it, the state can also do it. If the union one contradicts the state ones, union will prevail. Either way, union will prevail. This is basically our quasi-federal structure, decentralization of power with the union. Now I'm basically teaching you polity in a way. But three lists I've discussed with you. This is called legislative jurisdiction. Now this division of legislative power actually was done by for the first time in India through the Government of India Act 1990. Now, what I'm going to discuss with you is very significant. Government of India Act 1919, and you all asked me this question previously also. That sir, if PLC is there and then CLC is there, then how are they making law? This question came to Montague's mind also. That how can it be, or how can it be that this and this, or these three, how can the three always legislate on laws? So there's a need to divide zones. So what the Government of India Act 1919 does, it for the first time creates legislative jurisdictions. The two jurisdictions which are created, and I'll give you an example also. Be patient, it will make sense to you. One is called central, the other one is called provincial. Central list, or sometimes also called imperial list, and provincial list. Under central list, there are subjects on which Governor General of India and Viceroy and his two bodies, Central Legislative Assembly and his Council of State, can make laws. Council of State can make laws. On the other hand, on provincial, the governor of province, along with his legislative council, should make laws. But there's an asterisk here, not followed. I will tell you what was followed, because here what was followed was called hierarchy. Here what was called is hierarchy. I'll tell you what is hierarchy before you first tell me. First tell me, do you understand this division? Central and subject-based divisions into central and provincial. Basically, this is the origin of center and union and state list. Not get basic difference in between. You will get it. You will get it. When I'll give you an example, you will make it. You will make it. Central imperial or central list and provincial list has been created and not followed. Arey, why are you stuck on something which I'm not asking you? Tell me, do you understand the basic thing central and provincial division you understand or not? Because then I will tell you what it is not followed, because what is followed is called hierarchy. Don't jump the gun. Be patient. Patience is important. Central provincial is clear or not? Please tell me this first. This basic jurisdictional thing. I will explain everything to you. Next time when you ask you to say yes, I will ask you to say yes after I've completely explained it to you. Last time I asked you in between to say yes. Okay. Now, this should have been the way it has been, that you have Central Legislative Assembly, Council of State, Governor General of India and Viceroy takes calls on subjects which are under the central list, and provincial list should have been just the Governor General of Province and Legislative Council. Ideally, this should have been there. But what it does is, if I tell you one thing, that most of the members, 90 to 95% of the members of the Legislative Council are going to be Indian now. Would the British want to give the Indians so much power? No. They would not like the Legislative Council to have too much power, because it is Indian element is the most. So what they do is that whilst at the central, what was actually followed, central, we already know that it is Governor General of India and his Central Legislative Assembly and his Council of State. In provincial, what they do is that this is where they introduce the concept of hierarchy or division of power amongst two houses. And what they do basically, in this is the biggest thing which the British could do, the governor will legislate with both Legislative Assembly and with Executive Council, which is a contradiction in itself, because how can an executive be part of legislature? Here, Indians are more than Britisher, and here Indians are less than Britishers. And what they do is that they divide provincial subjects into two: reserved and transferred. On transferred subjects and reserved subjects, this body takes a call. On reserved subjects, this body takes a call. Now, this is called masterstroke. Here it is very straightforward. But now you see, I told you that the addition of this member is critical for structural change, is critical for jurisdictional division. The structural change is very important, because if the structural change will not happen, the hierarchy won't work only. Now, I'll give you a very beautiful example, and I think after this, there should be no problem. But in principle, if you have been paying attention, this is not rocket science. It should make sense to you. Which is that they are basically involving on important subjects the Britishers, and these are mostly important areas, and these are mostly useless areas of law. And I'll give you an example and you will forever understand it. Ready? Everybody? Okay? Because if I understand this, then this topic is over within the next 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, perfect. Now see, I have home, let's remove home. For example, law and order, police, foreign relations, revenue, or what we call as receipts of the state. No, not that complicated. Let me keep it simple. Foreign relations, defense, then you have education, then you have irrigation, then you have land revenue, then you have revenue from toll, tax, and you have health, you have give me one more useless subject. Okay, we can keep currency here. Currency. Give me a useless subject. Doesn't really matter. Forest is important. Education done. Railways is still important. Ha, very good. Child and women development. Not useless now, but for the British it is useless. Let's keep very good. Agriculture, railways. Enough. Sanitation. Very good. कितना तेज बच्चे हैं. Sanitation. Water and water resources. Okay. Labor. Very good. You all know which industry to not become a part of. Okay. Very good. Now these are multiple subjects. I know agriculture is not useless. Bhavuk nahi hona hai. We don't become emotional because British does not care. I don't care. So now these are subjects on which you can make laws. So I hope you understand what is a subject. I have to make laws. I can make it on subjects. Now what the Government of India Act 1919 does is, it will, for example, take foreign relations, take defense, take land revenue, take railways, take currency, and it will club these as what is called as central subjects. On a central subject, Governor General, it's an example, not what actually happened. So don't ask me questions. Where is this ministry? Where is that ministry? Pay attention. I know you know ministry is very, very good. Central subjects, Governor General of India and Viceroy, along with his legislative legislative assembly and his council of state. So they will be the law making body. And I think that is not an issue. You understand, this is a central subject, very important subjects on which the Governor General wants to keep it very close to his heart. Now what is left are these subjects: education, irrigation, police, law and order, agriculture, sanitation, water, labor, women and child and health, along with poll tax from this. What these are, What these are provincial subjects. Provincial subjects. अरे health भी कर दो यार. Don't worry, health also. Now, ideally, all of this should have been done with the legislative council, but that is too much power to the Indians. So what they did was that they further subdivided these subjects into reserved and transferred. And what they did was they put, for example, law and order, police, revenue from toll tax, and labor under reserved, and they put agriculture, sanitation, water, education, and health under transferred. And now the point is that, and this is the master stroke of the British, on these subjects, it will be governor plus executive council, and on these subjects, it will be governor plus legislative council. And if you remember, here the Indian element is not there, here it is more. Now, basically, this is called hierarchy. This web which I've created in front of you is called the hierarchy. Hierarchy, but only at the provincial level. If Indians were majority in central legislative, would it have encouraged British to introduce hierarchy at center too? Yes, they will. 1935 they did. But it was never applied. Transfer point not understood. The problem with you is that you are still you believe in the British too much. It is a simple point. It's a very simple point. Why would I give too much power to Indians? Please understand this point. Provincial legislative assemblies already have a lot of Indians. The provincial legislative council has a lot of Indians. If I start to give law and order police to Indians to legislate, you really think that you add poll tax here? Yeah, toll tax. You really think that the British were ever going to give Indians power in legislature? This is why I said that hierarchy basically undercuts the whole system itself. They are giving us power, but sanitation में power लेके क्या करोगे? What will you do with the power in sanitation? Think of it. It is a constitutional violation of separation of powers. Cannot give executive councillor power, but they are giving executive council not in center, but in state power. Indians would have used the police to then be a little bit more better. Understand this point. It's a very simple point. If you remove your innocence, you will understand the politics. It's basically your boss giving you power, but also not giving you power. Today, your boss called and said, I want to give a very important power to you. It's a very important power, and I think you will be no one next to no one. And what is the power? How many samosas will come? Where it will come from and where the chai is going to come, I leave it to you. This is transferred. Please understand this point. Reserved and transferred are just created to undercut the power of the Indians. So it's namesake power. But they said, na, Montagu said, I will give representative government. But he didn't say where he will give you representative government. So it's basically like giving me power and making me finance minister of Uganda. What will I do with being the finance minister of Uganda? Whatever revenue generated will be handled by the British. Local issues will be handled by Indians. That is the basic point. By the tension areas, they've left it to the Indians. You figure out what you will do with education. We don't care. What you will do with sanitation, water, health, your problem. Reserve transferred undercuts the representative government concept itself. Indians aren't part of provincial executive legislative council. Indians are in a majority at this point of time in Central Legislative Assembly and Legislative Council. PLC and CLC, they are in the majority. And they had to create a council of state in order to undercut the power of the Central Legislative Assembly. I told you, every change has happened to undercut Indian representation. Indian representation had to be undercut. That is why they have added one more house, bicameralism, and they have not given the main subjects to Indians itself. Is this making sense to you? Is this making sense to you? Because if I read it out to you, it will not make sense. If you allow me, I will bring both structure and jurisdiction in one slide, and then we can move on to other smaller changes which were done. It is not difficult if you understand this, sure. If you don't understand this, this is the way of understanding it. In a way like Diwani Nizamat. No, but not that ways, but sure, if you understand it that way. Basically, the matters in which money is involved is given to the British only. Okay. Now let me consolidate. I hope this makes sense, because hierarchy, mostly students don't understand what is called hierarchy at center, hierarchy at province. Hierarchy was never implied in center, it was only applied in province. So the Government of India Act, difference between Central Legislative Assembly, Council of State. In Council of State, there are more princely state members, and it is not representative of the population of India. Central Legislative Assembly, every province has certain seats. So it's basically like the Raj Sabha and the Lok Sabha. Lok Sabha people, the Central Legislative Assembly people will get elected. Council of States will be nominated by the British. So they will only nominate good, only loyalists will be nominated. That's the point. Now, you have Secretary of State. Please pay attention. Again, repeating myself. High Commissioner of India and Governor General of India and Viceroy. Governor of Province, Legislative Council, Executive Council, Executive Council, Central Legislative Assembly, and Council of State. Now, the first edition is this, second is this, bicameralism, foreign no, today we don't have hierarchy in anywhere. Diarchy is not a good thing. Diplomatic powers created. Direct elections with separate electorates. Direct elections with separate electorate. Indians more than British. Indian more than British. British nominated loyalists. No Indian initially allowed. Thereafter, central list as per legislative jurisdictional division. Provincial list. However, audio is not coming at your end. पीयूष मैं कुछ बोल ही नहीं रहा. Make the flowchart with rectangle, triangle like shapes. Next time. Okay. Now, I don't know how I will make rectangles and triangles which are flexible, but sure, why not? Everything which I've taught till this point is on this slide. If this is clear, Dararki meaning. So who is Sri Ram? After telling you the whole concept of Ramayana. So I'll read it out to you. Don't worry. I'll read it out to you. Dararki is a division of provincial lists into two, reserved and transferred. The problem is what I do is my mistake is that I should read the slide out to you first. First, you will see what is spectrum language. Then you will think it. समझ ही नहीं आ रहा. Then you will understand it better. You want a definitional aspect. I don't care if you understand the definition or not. I'm just asking you to understand one thing, that there is a jurisdictional division of power which is happening vis-a-vis legislative power, central provincial. Then in provincial, they split it up into two, which is the concept of hierarchy, which is transfer and reserve. UPSC will never ask you definitions because this is not school, but that does not even matter. I'm still giving you the definition. The division of legislative subjects under the provincial list into reserved and transferred is called hierarchy. Now make sense of it. Indians were allowed in executive and center. Yes, I told you last time, Manja. Remember, Satyendranath Sinha. Abhi still half of the subjects, half of the other changes I've not told you. I've only told you too big. I told you your patience is needed today. So if you are not going to pay attention, it will not make sense. I've only told you 4 basic changes by till this point of time. It is not confusing. Confusing तो है ही नहीं. It is not confusing. But if it is confusing, you tell me what is confusing. You tell me what is confusing. Because there is no confusion. British were very clear. Structure. So भाई ये देखो structure. Okay. Now if I don't show you the jurisdictional differentiation, now does it make sense, Ashish? अच्छा, ये समझ आ गया. And if I show you this, then it makes sense. Does this make sense? अच्छा. So अब एक आंख पे रख के स्ट्रक्चर समझ आ गया. एक आंख पे रख के now we understand the hierarchy concept. So now I'll remove both and see magic. -10 is your power of your eye. I showed you both separately. You said it is making sense. Then both together should also make sense to you. If you see, if I'll tell you, follow the yellow line and you'll find the first image. Follow the second and it will show you the jurisdictional differentiation. I can make both separately also. I've already made it. This is the first story. This is the second story. Understood now? Perfect. Can I talk about other smaller things which happened? See, I am not asking, I don't want you to sit there thinking I will not repeat. But you have to be clear in what you don't understand. If you're sitting there writing yes, then there's no difference between me and Spectrum. So please tell me whatever I've made on this slide, wherein I've talked about the High Commission of India, where I've talked about bicameralism at center, where I've talked about legislative jurisdiction, addition of an executive councillor, and the concept of hierarchy. 5 things I've discussed with you. Last one is like a mess. Perfect, no issues. So ऐसे देख लो, ये ठीक है. So this you understand? Central legislative executive will also partake. No, that is the point, na. This part in here there is a proper division. They are together. Here there's a proper division. And thereafter that is why I told you now I have discussed with you 2 things. Structural changes, under which there are 3 changes. One is High Commissioner, thereafter the executive councillor at province, and the last is bicameralism. And jurisdictional division, I have taught you only 3 changes again. 2 changes. Central list, provincial list with hierarchy, under which provincial list is divided into two, transferred and reserved. Why don't you make the flowcharts in the PPT? मुझे अच्छा लगता है बनाना. I like it. I like to make flowcharts. Can I talk about other changes? How they nominate, as they always nominated. All loyalists were filled in. Yes? Beautiful? Very good. I want everybody's yes. There is, can we make flowchart in exam? Sure, you can make it, but you have to explain what you're saying first. First, you don't understand the flowchart, but you want to make it in the examination also. British contradiction. Okay, beautiful. Very good. Okay. Now, let's do one thing. Let's read it in words. Maybe it will make more sense. Okay. Where is Gandhiji? Chilling in Sabarmati? Okay. Relaxation. Now, you see, I'll read it out as given in any standard book. So, the provisions of the Montagu-Chelmsford reforms are as follows. By relaxation of central control over provinces, which is called legislative decentralization, by demarcating and separating the central and provincial subjects. The central and provincial legislatures were authorized to make laws on their respective lists of subjects. However, the structure of the government continued to be centralized and unitary with all the power with the Governor General. Now, bicameral legislature comes in, wherein the Indian Legislative Council was replaced by a bicameral legislature in which you have the upper house, Council of State, lower house, Legislative Assembly. The majority of the members of both the houses were chosen by direct election, but the way they chose Council of State members was that they had to rig the elections to make sure loyalists used to always enter the Council of State. There they had changed the way of direct elections. That much detail we don't need to go into. There were 145 members in the Central Legislative Assembly and Council of State 60. So there you can see there's already a division. Other than this, separate electorates which had been given to Muslims was also given to Sikhs who had been asking for it, Anglo-Indians, Indian Christians, and Europeans. Before you ask me what is an Anglo-Indian, Anglo-Indian means father is a Britisher, mother is an Indian. And the child born is called an Anglo-Indian. Legislators could pass adjournment motions, vote on the budget, but 75% of the budget was still not votable with Governor General in that regard. Now, hierarchy will be introduced at the provincial legislature level. Hierarchy was introduced in province where there were two classes of administrators, executive councillors and ministers. Ministers were related to the legislative assembly and they were related to the executive councillors or the executive council. They were given reserved, they were given transferred subjects. Reserved subjects administered by the governor and his executive council without being responsible to the legislative council. Finance, law and order, law and land revenue irrigation. Transfer subjects were administered by the governor with the aid of ministers responsible to the legislative council, health, education, industry, local government. The governor could veto the bill and issue ordinances also. Why British would allow direct elections? Because they wanted to create a drama that we were electing somebody to the government. All power is still with the Governor General. And there were income concepts because you could only vote if you had a certain income, which was too high. Now, other than this, women were also given the right to vote in very limited sense, where they were given certain representation, but very limited. Then 3 of the 6 members of the Viceroy's Executive Council, other than the Commander-in-Chief, were to be Indian. So it is still the ratio of 3:3, but still Governor General, if you add, it becomes 4:3. Then High Commissioner Office in London is created and transferred some functions which were hitherto previously with the Secretary of State to India. Thereafter, for the first time, the UPSC, which has been asking you to learn all of this, will be created in 1926, which is called the Central Public Service Commission. For the first time, provincial budgets were separated from central budgets. It provided for an appointment of a statutory committee, which was going to come after 10 years to check if everything was working fine or not. Basically, in 1929, there should be a commission which should come from London to check if Government of India Act 1919 is working right or not. That should have been Simon Commission, but Simon Commission came 2 years early, 1927 itself, that I will discuss with you. So I have now given you basic points which are given in every book, every standard book. Now I don't know which makes more sense to you, either the text or the flowcharts. I've tried to explain to you everything. I want to now make one slide on which I want to add all the points to be written in the examination. What was more important was, if you understand it, you will never forget it. Simple point, there will be first structural changes, jurisdictional changes. Structural changes in which from Morley into reforms, 3 bodies are added: bicameralism, High Commissioner, Executive Councillor, and thereafter there is jurisdictional differentiation created by creating 2 jurisdictions, central and provincial. Central was straightforward, where there is no issue at all, but provincial was where hierarchy was introduced into creating transferred and reserved. Transferred and reserved were created to create a division between executive council and legislative councillors, wherein the power still rests with the British. Wherever British were in a majority, their only power was there. And therefore, I have discussed with you 4 major provisions. I want to now write down the other provision on one slide. Are we clear? Yes or no? There is no other way to understand it better. I hope hierarchy should be clear in your mind. 1.5 hours I've put into this. It mostly does not deserve this much, but I'm still doing it because constitutional history is a very important area. Okay, now what are the provisions? After this I give you a break. Don't worry. Provisions of the Government of India Act 1919 are also called Montagu-Chelmsford reforms. Power is vested in British, meaning power is given to British. Please use yellow color underline in PPT as revision time helpful to find important. Okay, I will note that. Perfect. But when I'm using yellow color as the color of the pen, please tell me which color I should use to mark what is important. Okay. First, High Commissioner's Office is created in London with powers transferred from Secretary of State. Thereafter, bicameralism. Bicameralism is introduced at provincial, not provincial, at central level with Central Legislative Assembly and Council of States. 3. Executive Council is added to the office of Governor of Province. Legislative division of power into central and provincial list. Further divided into reserved and transferred, which is called hierarchy. Central Public Service Commission is established under the Act when 1926. Separate electorates for Sikhs, Anglo-Indians, Europeans, and Indian Christians. 8. Women were given some voting rights. 9. Direct elections to Central Legislative Assembly, Council of State, and Provincial Legislative Assembly. I'll do one thing, which is before you will start to email me about it. Somewhere I've written nominated, because then you will say how nominated, this nominated, that nominated. Huh. Nine. 9 points. Anybody any issue? If you write them in the examination, your job is done. Before arrival of British, Christian population was there. They were there. Not in the big numbers, they were there afterwards, but they were. Can I take a break here? Annotated PPT, you get it after I write something on it. So after the session. So this topic is over, right? I will come and start Rowlatt Satyagraha now. So Government of India Act 1919 is done. We come back at 6:55 and this topic is done. First act that introduced direct elections, no. Separate electorates, 1909, it already did. Second point, bicameralism introduced at center level with Central Legislative Assembly and Council of States. The expenditure of all tasks of Government of India, expenditure of all tasks were on Government of India, not on British Crown. How they elected loyalists to Central Council of States. They made the election criteria so high that only elite Indians could enter, so they were loyalists. Women also got vote, right to vote, but you have mentioned the for few only means. I have written women were given some voting rights. That was not defined how that would operate. Muslim given separate electorates already. There was an addition. Already Muslims had been given in 1909. So how should I write it here? That is already there. This is a new addition. So whatever I've done already is there. That is over and above it. Direct elections are the election concept in a way was introduced by the 1892 only. But proper elections will first happen under 1909, which is a little bit of a direct election under separate electorates. This is all election a drama that you need to understand. Why you say British colonized that, but in reality, rich class made us colonized. Very good observation. I didn't say it. Now we take a break and we come back at stage 7 then. Okay. Sixth point, Central Public Service Commission, UPSC, established under this act, will be coming up in force in 1926. Are women have right to vote in colonial rule? No. But only elite women were given that access. The Maharaja's wives were given right to vote. Ninth point, direct elections to Central Legislative Council of State and Provincial Legislative Assembly. In principle, that is what is going to happen. See, understand this point. In principle, the British will say a lot of things. What will happen on the ground is a separate issue altogether. Yes? Okay. See you at 7 straight. We start now the political history, what we have to do. I leave you with this slide. Acha, break too long. Has class started? Class resumed. Has class resumed? Class resumed. On Fridays, it will always take me more time. Too much delay. I had to sign off on your questions, which will come to you on Saturday. The subjective and the objective. Acha, it breaks continuity. ठीक है, we'll stop giving break only. Suits me also. Okay. How to go through Saturday questions. It will come in your dashboard. So, can we start our story back? Whatever we've done is constitutional history till this point. No, Ashish, some of your friends are saying that breaks continuity. Breaks continuity. So we can stop giving the break itself. Makes more sense. Okay. In this story, we have covered two critical points. One is Montagu claims for reforms, or what is called as Government of India Act 1919. And on the other side of the story, we have the concept of what we today call as Montagu's Declaration, August Declaration. Now I have to go into the political story back where we left it yesterday, and we have to discuss about Gandhi and whatever he was going to do generally after this point. So what we have established till this point is that we have reached till 1916-17. Gandhi had now got involved by 1918 into Champaran, Kheda, Ahmedabad. Home rule league movement was starting to fizz off because Gandhi was becoming more and more popular. By 1916, INC, moderates, extremists are also together. So India was poised for something very big if a reason comes. And that reason was going to come very soon because it was linked to something which was done in 1915 itself. So hierarchy and all are done. Now I'm going back to the story. So if you remember in 1915, when the Gadar movement was at its peak, there were two acts which were passed. One is called Defense of India Act. India Act 1915. And the other one was called the Defense of Realms Act. Defense of Realms Act. But that realm, what it says is basically the realm of the British Empire. So this was one act specific for India itself, and there was one bigger act which was called Defense of Realms Act, under which Defense of India Act 1915 was passed. Under Defense of India Act 1915, the fact was the Gadar movement was at its peak. The Governor General under the Defense of India Act gets a lot of power, in the sense that he can he can direct the police to do search without warrants. There can be preventive detention. There can be basic, what we call as, if you want to call it, for example, habeas corpus will be gone out, that the judge cannot say that show me the person. Preventive detention can be for a very, very long time. There can also be the concept that, for example, the ships, even containers, trains could be stopped and searched. And Defense of India Act was very efficiently used as a very draconian law in which anything and everything is possible. Police has arbitrary power under it. And even the police, military, and any officer given this power under the Defense of India Act, executives have too much power. And this was used to basically curb the Lahore, what is called the first Lahore conspiracy case. And that was basically the Gadar movement related one. It will be used to destroy the Gadar movement, what it was planning to do in February of 1915. And then the same Defense of India Act, the bigger act, will be used to destroy the Gadar in San Francisco and in Canada. So Defense of India Act was the need, or the British named it Defense of India under the fact that it was during the First World War, 1914 to 1918. There was this need to do it because Germans could come to India, the fact that Austrians could come to India, the fact that Ottomans could come to India. So it was about, they justified this act vis-a-vis defense of India, that we were defending India vis-a-vis the First World War. Just to refresh anybody's memory, First World War, if you don't know, is happening between Britain, France, Italy, USA, Russia versus Germany, Austria, and the Ottoman Empire, which is basically nothing but Turkey. And it happens between 1914 to 1918, and they will win in eventually 1918. But just to give you a basic understanding, just because Britain was on the opposite side of the Ottoman Empire, and Ottoman Empire is very close to the northwestern frontier province or northwestern frontier of India, this concept was why I not to be discussed here. That has a lot of context which I will discuss in world history. 1918 it will stop. 1919 Treaty of Versailles is signed. That's a two different things. Armistice will happen in 1918. 1919 will be the concept of the Treaty of Versailles. So very simply 1915 Government Defense of India Act was a justification, or was justified through the World War. However, now the World Wars was coming to an end. 1918 Germany surrendered, and the Defense of India Act was still there. So the British now had one concept. See, to be very honest, was really the Defense of India Act to defend India or to kill the nationalists? It will start in 1914 years. It was to destroy nationalism. So if it is to destroy nationalism, then if it is 1918, the British can't just say that, okay, war is over, we'll remove Defense of India Act. The British still need this act. So a drama which they will do is called a small commission, which is called the Sydney Rowlett Commission. This person called Sydney Rowlett, he was a justice in the London, in the what we call as the English Empire, and he was given this question: is the Defense of India Act relevant after the war? This was the question in front of him. And that is why it's called the Rowlett Act or Rowlett Commission, because it is named after Sydney Rowlett. Now, obviously, the British or Rowlett was going to give a very simple answer. Yes. But obviously, they can't call it Defense of India Act. Now, the Defense of India Act, which is the father of this Act, 1915, it is repackaged as what we today call as the Anarchical and Revolutionary Crimes Act, 1919. Very sweetly called as Rowlett Act. Nickname, Rowlett Act. Now, if you look at the name of the act, it says anarchical and revolutionary crimes. So basically, it is targeting the extremists. Now, when we talk about this whole concept again, Defense of India Act 1915 was introduced as what is called as a Defense of India Regulations. It's an emergency criminal law enacted in 1915 via the Governor General of India, and it was to curtail nationalism and revolutionary activities, but thought of like a Defense of India thing. It is similar to the Defense of Realms Act, gives a lot of power. For example, preventive detention, internment again means detention without trial, restriction on writing, speech, movement. And the first Lahore conspiracy trial, in which the Ghadar movement was tried, used this act itself. Now, 6 months before the Montfort means Montague Chelmsford reforms. They're called Montfort because it takes Mont from Montague, Ford from Chelmsford. That's why it's called Montfort. Montfort reforms, two bills were introduced, one being called the Anarchical and Revolutionary Crimes Act, which is basically an extension of 1915, which was based on the Sedition Committee under Sidney Rowlett in 1918. And this committee, Rowlett had suggested to indefinitely extend the emergency provisions beyond 1915 itself, which the concept was that we will stop it when the war will end. But he said that the Anarchical and Revolutionary Crimes Act is relevant and all provisions should be allowed and should be extended. Now, this is a very, very big thing, because when it will be passed by the Central Legislative Assembly and the what we call as Council of States, every Indian is going to say no. People, for example, like Jinnah, Madan Mohan Malviya, Fazul Haq, all will resign from their positions. But because the Governor General had vetoed this bill, nobody could stop this bill generally. Now, why is it considered such a dangerous act, or what is the problem with the Rowlett Act? We understand the context. Yes or no? We understand the context. The prelude to this act, Sidney Rowlett, and now he's extending it. Hidden intention, curb the nationalism, defy, or what we call as defeat the revolutionary activities and revolutionary assassination. Now, Rowlett Act does three things. First is that you can be arrested on suspicion. So today I said that if just the British came, I was talking to a barber and I told my barber that just if I can have my hands over the neck of Chelmsford, I would kill him. We all say it. We all take out our frustration. Now what will happen is the police will take that as evidence. If randomly somebody said there was a man who was saying he will assassinate Chelmsford, you'll be picked up. Based on just mere suspicion, you can be arrested. First. Second, you can be taken to jail, preventive detention it is called. You can be put into jail without trial. You'll not be shown to or you will not be produced in front of a judge. You will automatically be put into jail that we believe that this person has suspicion of killing Chelmsford. We put him there. You can settle personal scores. Anything and everything happens. The Indian Evidence Act, which says that you need certain evidence against that person, that does not apply under Rowlett Act. You can be just picked up on mere suspicion. So I went and slapped a police officer. He will say he was saying that he wants to kill Chelmsford. He will put me in jail, and there will be no way in which I will be produced in front of a judge. I can be jailed for 3 years without seeing the day of light, without defending my position. Once you have been, if the government wants to do a drama, you can be produced in front of a special 3-judge bench. And if the 3-judge bench says that this person's detention is justified, there's no appeal. There's no appeal. You cannot argue against what is happening, and you will not even get a lawyer. So that is why the basic concept was no appeal, no dalil, no vakil, which is there is no argument, there's no lawyer, and there's no appeal to what happens in the Rowlatt Act. Further, habeas corpus, any judge of any other court cannot ask the police to produce that person, and the executives have insane amount of power, and the police can basically arrest anybody if he is even related to anybody. That is how they destroyed the Gadar movement. Now what Rowlatt is saying is, let us extend it indefinitely. You can be arrested on charge of suspicion of treason or sedition, put into jail without trial for 2 years, extended by 1 year later. So total 3 years, but originally it said 2 years. There's no habeas corpus, no civil liberties. Anybody can be picked up and put into prison without trial. If a special judge bench says that you are justified in going there, there is no appeal. So there is no Indian Evidence Act applied. There are no evidences which is needed against you. You can be arrested without warrant on mere suspicion. Police had immense power, and the slogan became no appeal, no dalil, no vakil. This was an emergency provision, but has been now made norm. So I think we all can agree that this act is very, very dangerous. These are the provisions. Dalil means to argue. These are the provisions of the Rowlatt Act. And Rowlatt Act, you can be jailed for 2 years plus 1 year without trial. You can be not tried also. You can be put into jail. Executive has too much power. No judge can bring you back. And you can be just put on mere suspicion. No evidence is needed. We all can agree that this is basically made for the revolutionaries. For example, the Chapekar brothers, if they had this power, it is to destroy Anusilan. It will destroy Anusilan. It will destroy Mitra Mela. It will destroy Abhinav Bharat. It will destroy Yugantar properly. It will destroy everything. We'll talk about that. Bhagat Singh later will come under this act, but that was a separate issue altogether, which I'll discuss with you. He's 1930. We are not in 1930s right now. Now, Gandhi sees an opportunity here. Gandhi sees an opportunity here that there was a convergence. First, that the Rowlatt Act impacts everyone. Yes or no? Rowlatt Act impacts everybody. You can be a moderate or extremist, a Muslim League member or an INC member. You could be a farmer or a labor. You could be a man on the street or on the chalk. Rowlatt Act impacts everybody. So this impacts everyone. Plus, Lucknow Pact had happened. Lucknow Pact means that the INC plus the Muslim League are together, and over and above that, the moderates and the extremists are together. Further, the Home Rule League had created a little bit of traction, meaning it was becoming a little bit popular. So Gandhi could see that now I have done Champaran, Kheda, and Ahmedabad, but I have not launched myself at the all India scale. And Gandhi will see the Rowlatt Act as an opportunity to launch himself. And Rowlatt Satyagraha, which was done in 1919, is the first Gandhian movement in India, in all India. And second, first moment of mass nationalism. And also the transition from extremist phase to Gandhian phase. Now, what Gandhi chose or Gandhi said was that I will use this act as a way of launching myself. He will call it what is called as the Black Act, and he will establish one sabha which is called Satyagraha Sabha Sarvadharma Prathana Sabha. So you can see how he's again doing that drama, that we are doing prayer for all religions. हम सत्याग्रह Swadharma Prathana Sabha. But that was basically not something which he was going to do. Which he was not going to do. Basically, he is now going to, in the name of this Sabha, go after Rowlatt Act. And what he will do is that he will use the younger member of the Home Rule League movement and call them and say, why are you involved in Home Rule League? Come join me. So basically, Home Rule League movement base is destroyed by Gandhi using them in this satyagraha. So Rowlatt Satyagraha is the first time Gandhi was ready to act at an all India level. Champaran, Kheda and Ahmedabad were micro movements, were smaller movements. How is it Gandhian movement? Other movements are peasant. Understand? I'm answering you right now. I know you will contest it. Champaran, Kheda, Ahmedabad are not all India level movements. They are specific to Champaran, Kheda and Ahmedabad. Rowlatt Satyagraha is him getting launched at an all India level where he is now going to speak to the nation or to the Indians, not to just Champaran, Kheda, Ahmedabad, which are micro issues. Now it is a macro issue. And that is why Satyagraha Sabha or the Rowlatt Satyagraha is considered Gandhi's launch at the all India level. So after pilot programs in Champaran, Kheda and Ahmedabad, he is now launching himself. And under Rowlatt Satyagraha, he chooses multiple things. He says that we will do nationwide hartal. Hartal means strike. We will not go to the courts. We will not go to British institutions. We will do strikes. We will do fasting. We'll do prayer. And we will do civil disobedience of very small laws. We will go and get imprisoned under jail bharo. So basically now what Gandhi is doing is introducing everything at once. And the date he chooses is called 6th April 1919, will be called as the All India Hartal or strike. All India Hartal or strike. Gandhi was able to see that moderates extremists are together with the Muslim League under Lucknow Pact. Rowlatt Satyagraha is an all India level movement, all India level problem, and the Home Rule League young members were very active. Using these three as the basic point, he is now going to launch a movement that on 6th April 1919, we all are going to go at an all India level strike, and he will urge the peasant, the worker, everybody to do this hartal. This is where Gandhi is different from everyone else. He didn't say no, only one, only two. No, he said everybody will go for hartal, a strike on 6th April 1919. He had destroyed the base of the Home Rule League movement. He was using the Home Rule League movement for his own interest. Please understand this point. Home Rule League movement had become popular. It had a base at the all India level. Gandhi says to all Home Rule League movement people, you join me in this satyagraha, thereby destroying the Home Rule League movement itself. So Gandhi is using the Home Rule League movement to launch his own movement itself. Is this making sense? It's not very difficult. You use someone else to basically create your own movement. 6th April 1919, All India Hartal. Nobody had ever talked about an All India movement. And this day will be quite successful also. Megha, I've 3 times repeated what you're saying. Lucknow Pact, Rowlatt Act and Home Rule League. You're not listening. I'm telling you the moment was poised because these 3 convergences were there. I've told you 3 times now that people have come together. It's an all India level issue. Home Rule League movement already has a base. Now, 6th April 1919 is going to be a very successful day, wherein everywhere in India there will be multiple hartals. But the problem was that the people were too overexcited at this point of time. So even before that, on 5th April, there was a little bit of violence between the British and the Indians. On 6th April also, there's a lot of moments in which there is a little bit of violence. But the real problem is not going to emerge anywhere else, but in Punjab, which will make Gandhi withdraw this movement very soon. So when we talk about the movement itself, for the first time, masses were now given direction to act. Peasant, artisans, urban, poor, everybody was important for the movement. And the orientation had now been permanently changed, with Gandhi talking about everybody rising and fighting the British. Gandhi is not against the Home Rule League movement. Gandhi is using the Home Rule League movement. I don't know why you are getting emotionally attached to the Home Rule League movement. Home Rule League movement created a base which Gandhi used very well. That's the only point which I'm trying to say. You want to judge him, you judge him. The simple point is he has now used the point of convergence to do 6th April 1919. Are we clear about this? Because I now want to go to Punjab, because now in Punjab something is going to very, very soon happen, which will be seen as a major break in the Indian national movement itself. You have seen 6th April, Rowlatt Satyagraha, he has launched it. People are very happy. People are doing what he has asked to do. People are fasting. They are taking a bath in the Ganga. But the point is, one day everybody did it, but then people are not ready with the Gandhian movement. They clash also. It's a varied response all across India. Now, we'll go to, they were doing boycott and everything. It's not that. So he didn't support Home Rule League. He's using it. This is being called smart. This is called a smart person. You use someone else's base to do your own stuff. Now, Jallianwala Bagh also happened in 1918. Then what Gandhiji doing? मैं बता दूं? Can I do it? Can I talk about Jallianwala Bagh? I'm taking you to Punjab for the same reason. Are we all clear about mass nationalism, why it's the Gandhian movement and how it started? This I want everybody's yes, because I am not going to go again over that basic thing that Rowlatt was all India. Everybody had come together. He used the Home Rule League base to basically go for an all India level movement. Gandhi was now a superstar across India. He has now launched himself. Now, Punjab, there is a little bit of too much resentment. Punjab is a little bit too explosive at this point of time. On 6th April 1919, the Hartal has been called. But Punjab and Punjabis feel betrayed. Basically, Punjab had contributed quite a lot in the First World War. And a lot of Punjabi soldiers had gone to fight in the First World War. And close to 1.5 lakh Punjabis lost their life in the First World War in the name of the British. It's a very big, very, very big contribution which the Punjabis did. And they wanted a reward. The Punjabis thought that they will get a reward from the British once the war is going to be over. But what did they get after the war was over? What did they get? They got the stick, which is the Rowlatt Act. So, your mother told you that you clean all your room, you sort out all the things, and she will make a very good dish for you. You are doing it in the reward of basically getting a very, very, very important paneer dish, whatever you eat, your favorite sabzi, your favorite dish. And as soon as you reach, after doing everything, she gives you Karela or whatever you don't like. So basically, Punjab had contributed immensely, immensely in the First World War. And after contributing so much, the British gave them yellow, Rowlatt Satyagraha. I can pick up anybody I want. So there's a lot of anger which is there in Punjab. Lot of anger. Now on 9th April, now please pay attention, on 9th April 1919, two members of the Punjab Congress, one Dr. Satyapal and Saifuddin Kichlew. These are two members who are picked up under the Rowlatt Act. They are arrested under the Rowlatt Act and they're taken to unknown locations. Nobody knows where Dr. Satyapal and Saifuddin Kichlew are. First, you did not reward us for our contribution to the First World War. And second, you have now picked up two very dear leaders of the Punjab Congress, Saifuddin Kichlew and Dr. Satyapal. Now the anger rises even more. People are like, we wanted a reward and you are picking up our leaders. So the anger has reached at a point which is not paralleled in India anywhere, but in Punjab it is very high. And on 10th April, there is a major procession which is there in Amritsar, which turns out to be a proper public rampage. Rampage means that people go. The British did not promise anything, but there was an expectation. Now in Amritsar on 10th April, people will rampage through the city. First, the police and the people will clash. Shots will be fired. So the people will run after the police, beat the police up. Every European they could see, they burnt and killed that person. Four European employees out of a bank were burnt with the furniture in the bank itself. They took out the furniture, burnt it, and threw the European, what we call as, if you want to say, European contractors or subcontractors, or basically four European citizens. They were bank employees. So why Punjab is angry is that they did not get a reward. They were expecting something, and their two leaders are gone. People have lost their children in the First World War, and this is what they get. Now on 10th April, this is called the Amritsar violence. Unprecedented level. A nun her name was Marcella Sherwood. She was cycling from the church to her hostel. She'll be picked up and beaten up by the people and thrown into a corner of that street. People lost their mind on 10th April. 4 to 5 Europeans were dead. Punjab was burning. 3 to 4 buildings were burnt. And 10th April is called Amritsar violence. And now, if you remember, when it comes to violence, nobody can beat the British. Which year did it happen? We are talking about 1919 only. Na? This much presumption needs to be there. 10th April 1919. So basically, now please understand, people tend to see Jallianwala Bagh as a random event. What I'm trying to establish in front of you is Jallianwala Bagh is not a random event. Jallianwala Bagh is the response of the British to 10th April. This nobody will tell you. This nobody will tell you that the British will now seek revenge for what happened on 10th April 1919. So if you don't understand the importance of 10th April, you will never understand what Jallianwala Bagh is. Or if you never talk about 10th April, you will never talk about Jallianwala Bagh in the full context. Jallianwala Bagh was a response of the British to what happened on 10th April, 9th April. 9th April, Saifuddin Kishri and Dr. Satyabal are picked up. 10th April, unprecedented level of violence. A nun has been beaten up. 4 Europeans are dead. Amritsar is burning. British buildings have been actually targeted. The Punjabis have taken out their anger on the British. Now the Lieutenant Governor of Punjab, his name is Michael O'Dwyer. He will write to the British, to the Governor General, that things have gone out of hand. I need military support. And on the next train from the Jalandhar sector will come Dyer. I'm not going to honor him by calling Colonel, Brigadier, this and that. For me, he's a killer. For me, he's no one. He's not more than anything Dyer. If I had a better word for him, I would have used that also. So, Michael O'Dwyer has now called Dyer, and Dyer will come and say to O'Dwyer. Remember, O'Dwyer is different, Dyer is different. Don't do this to me. No Gajini effect. O'Dwyer is the Lieutenant Governor, and he's a general. He's called General Dyer, but he's a Dyer. Now under there are two different people. Come on here. राम लक्ष्मण वाला हाल कर देते तुम लोग. Karan Arjun, these are Karan Arjun. Dyer and Dyer. O'Dwyer, Dyer. O'Dwyer and Dyer. Like Misra and Mishra, these are two different things. So O'Dwyer is basically an Irish person. Dyer is a Britisher. Right? So O'Dwyer, Dyer. Are we clear about this? Karan Arjun? Yes, there are two people. Before I tell you the whole story and then you say, Are, who was that? Two people. Okay. Now see, what till today you would have been told, and it is written in every book, is that on 11th April 1919, martial law was applied. Now, what is martial law? Martial law is when the civilian authorities hand over control to the military. It's called martial law. Military rule. That when the DM hands over power to the general, captain, brigadier, whoever is standing in front of him, that is called martial law. Martial law is military rule. Every book will say on 11th April, martial law was applied. So basically, Jallianwala Bagh happened under martial law. This is a standard narrative which is given. However, based on my own research and the Hunter Commission, the commission which will be established after the Jallianwala Bagh by the British, in the Hunter Commission, there are two reports. One is called the Minority Report and the other one is called the Majority Report. 4 Englishmen and 3 Indians were there. The three Indians give us a very interesting thing, which is that, see, when you will become a DM yourself, when you hand over control, would you do it orally? That, okay, take it. Would you do it orally? That you are giving power from the civil authority to the military authority. Would you do it orally? No, you will always do it in written. That is the rule of law. That is English British administrative law. A written order needs to be there that says martial law has been proclaimed dash dash. For example, Abhishek Mishra has handed over control to Dyer under the circumstances of 10th April violence. So the name of the district magistrate will be given and the person who has taken up control will be given. It needs to be a written order, yes or no. This is what British administrative law says. That is what the law says. That is how procedural concepts are there. Now, astonishingly, no formal handover of power happened. So what Dyer is going to do on 13th April was basically illegal. Because Dyer will first do Jallianwala Bagh and then martial law will be applied retrospectively, which is again wrong. So this British, which he says rule of law, justice, we follow procedures. How can you not follow procedure? You see procedure. Dyer did not proclaim martial law on 11th April. Dyer was not given power legally on 11th April. And everything what he was going to do will be illegal. What I mean to say is, when it came to revenge, the British could do anything. So against popular imagination and literature and your books, what actually happened was, there was no martial law on 11th April. Neither on 11th, 12th or 13th. Martial law was proclaimed on 14th. Now Dyer will wait for something to happen. Wait for something to happen. And on 13th April, Baisakhi was there. Baisakhi was there. Baisakhi is a very important festival of the Punjabis. People have forgot what they've done. Always happens. Violence, a lot of calm and composed, but that's the what we call as silence before the storm. Now on Baisakhi day, people go to the Golden Temple. Very important holy concept itself. And next to the Golden Temple, there was a very big bagh, which is called the Jallianwala Bagh. Now, ironically, Jallianwala Bagh has a problem. The problem is that there is only one entry and exit. There's only one entry and exit. Very tight entry and exit. And it was always a tradition that people used to go to Golden Temple coming from the neighboring villages of Amritsar and then would go and rest and have a small lunch in the Jallianwala Bagh. Standard process. It happened every year. Now, ironically, the people who were sitting in Jallianwala Bagh on the fateful day of 13th April 1919 were not Amritsar residents, were not even related to what had happened on 10th April and 11th April. They were just unsuspecting people. So these people are non-political, just having their small picnic in this park. However, in this park, in the corner, there was a small gathering of Congress members who were talking about that Saifuddin Kichlev and Satyapal were not there, but people, as we do, we didn't care what was happening in the corner. Now, according to Bastard Dyer, he had pasted a piece of paper in every public's face in and around Amritsar that martial law has been proclaimed. Not more than 4 people can gather. But if we go by my research, if you go by my research, that paper was not there, and Dyer claims to be there because he could not have pasted that paper only. Because if he had not applied martial law, then how can he paste a paper? So he's basically lying that I did it. So that loophole, which people tend to say that General Dyer is lying, is answered by the research that no, he's not lying. He actually did not proclaim martial law only. So how could he paste it? Now, General Dyer with 2 trucks, one in which you have the Gorkha regiment and the Punjab regiment, and in the second one, 2 very big wheel-drawn machine guns. Wheel-drawn machine guns. Basically, these machine guns are so heavy that the people cannot pick it up. These are wheel-drawn. They are kept on wheels, and these are very, very big, heavy machine guns. Now, Dyer was looking for an opportunity, and unfortunately, he will see that in Jallianwala Bagh on 13th April 1990. He was acting on the behalf of O'Dwyer to take the revenge of 4 people dead and 1 nun beaten up. What happened that day would have been problematic, but now the British are going to seek. Dyer, what he will do is that he will reach in the middle of the day. There's no estimate because obviously the British are never going to give us the exact estimate, but we believe that 5 to 8, but maximum 10,000 people were then in the Jallianwala Bagh. It's a big Bagh, but 5 to 10,000 were there. Now Dyer will see this gathering and say, this is the best opportunity to now basically take revenge for 10th April. What Dyer will do is he will close all entry points, smaller entry points and exit points to the Jallianwala Bagh. And ironically, and this is documented in the Hunter Commission, the first thing which Dyer said was, bring both the machine guns and take them inside Jallianwala Bagh. Unfortunately, or fortunately for our people, the wheeled machine guns could not go inside only. They were too big for the gate. And it is documented that Dyer was very disappointed by the fact that machine guns could not go inside the Bagh. And now Dyer had no other option but to make 2 files of his men, one standing and one sitting, without any warning, without any announcement, without any form of visual cue. Dyer will ask each one of these men to fire. There was a well in the corner of Jallianwala Bagh. We don't know how many people died, but we know only one thing which was documented in the commission. 1,650 rounds were fired. 1,650 bullets were fired. Some of the people were shot. Some of the people went, or rather threw themselves into the well and drowned. Randomly, there was chaos in this Bagh. People now were trampling each other in a stampede. The British argue that 500 people died 1,500 were injured. The Congress had its own commission or its own committee in which Gandhi was also there. It says 1,500 dead, 2,000 injured. We believe that it is close to 3,000 people injured, at least 2 to 3,000 dead. Dyer had now taken revenge for 10th April. The people who were firing were Indians. The people who were dying were also Indians. Dyer had taken the revenge of 10th April. Jallianwala Bagh is considered the moment in which the real face of the British was exposed. The blot in, or the darkest moment after 1857. Dyer did not care about anybody. Dyer shot or ordered this shooting intentionally. The British had now shown that they don't care about self-rule. They were only here to rule. O'Dwyer had ordered this in a way. The biggest justification which Dyer gave was that it was in violation of the martial law, but to prove it successfully, there was no martial law. 13th April 1919 will always be remembered as a very dark day. 2,000 people, unsuspecting non-political people dead, is an unacceptable number. The biggest point was that this is what Gandhi feared. This is what Gandhi had feared, and this is why Gandhian movement was important. Violence was never the answer for nationalism. Violence was never the answer. Because if you do one Jallianwala Bagh, the British were ready to do thousands of Jallianwala Bagh every day. A lot of people till today argue that Gandhi was this, Gandhi was that. India should have taken this route and that route. We should have fought and this, that. This is what the British really is. If the machine gun would have entered, maybe more people would have died. But 1,650 rounds is not a joke. The people in the corner also died. One person who was shot in the leg in this whole episode is a person called Udham Singh, which I will tell you what he will do. Now, after Jallianwala Bagh, now the British will apply the martial law, and now the British will torture and make the people pay for 11th and 10th. On the same street where the nun had got beaten up, Indians will be asked to crawl on their bellies. Where the buildings had been burnt, Indians were asked to stand there and say sorry to the British and have to perform flogging and torture in front of those buildings. Every person who had any connection with the 10th April violence was beaten up or shot after the Jallianwala Bagh incident. And now the British, after seeing the backlash where Gandhi will give up his Kaisar-e-Hind tag, which he had got in South Africa for helping the British during a war with the Dutch, called the Boer Wars, Rabindranath Tagore will give up his Nobel Prize. there will be outcry. And Gandhi had no other option but on 18th April 1919 saying that knighthood and Nobel Prize later, Sir Rabindranath Tagore, tag he will give up. Gandhi will say to everybody that Jallianwala Bagh is my failure because I thought that the people of India were ready. Gandhi, after this point, will fear the British when it comes to the retaliation. Now the British will do a drama which is called Hunter Commission. He gives Kaisar Hind, he gives his knighthood and Nobel Prize later, but knighthood at this point of time. Hunter Commission will be established. Hunter will be given the mandate to check if Jallianwala Bagh was legal, illegal, or could have been avoided. Hunter Commission will have 3 Indian members, 4 British members. If you count the president, it becomes a total 8-member body. But the Indians were in a minority. We get a different perspective from the minority report of this whole, what we call as Hunter Commission. While on the other hand, the majority report says something else. The majority report straightaway says that Dyer was out of line and he should be asked to resign. He was not dismissed. He was not court-martialed. He was just asked to dismiss. That he was asked to resign. That you resign from your position as Brigadier General, and we believe that you are out of line. No guilt, no responsibility was placed on Dyer by saying that it was a martial law. He was doing his duty, but he did it too well. O'Dwyer, his lieutenant governor, said that I had given him martial law powers. But if you read the minority report, it says a totally different story. The minority report says that all responsibility should be on Dyer. O'Dwyer had given power to Dyer illegally. Martial law had not been proclaimed, so therefore the justification does not stand. And martial law will only be applied on 14th April 1919. And therefore, every action which Dyer did is wrong. But the British did not give Dyer the responsibility and the very well deserved punishment he should get. Rather, in the House of Lords in Britain, there will be a small fund which will be started because Dyer had lost his job. One of the most celebrated writers, Rudyard Kipling, was one of the person who will contribute to a newspaper-based fund to help Dyer. And Dyer will not face any consequences for Jallianwala Bagh. Over and above that, the British, the Congress was so disgusted by the Hunter Commission that it will establish its own commission under Gandhi's presidentship along with 2 other members. It will say everything was Dyer's fault. Dyer had taken revenge for what had happened on 13th April 1919, on 10th April 1919, and he had taken revenge on 13th April. For unfortunately, we did not get the satisfaction of killing Dyer. He got TB and he's died. But till 1940, O'Dwyer was alive. And it was Udham Singh who was there in this whole episode, who took it upon himself to travel to London, and he will shoot O'Dwyer in a public gathering to take revenge for what he had done on 13th April 1990. O'Dwyer got our justice. Dyer was saved by God. The fact of the matter was, Rowlatt Satyagraha proved to Gandhi two things. First, people are not ready. Second, Satyagraha is more difficult to follow at an all India level. And last but not the least, that it is not, violence is never the option. Violence is never the option. And the Rowlatt Satyagraha, therefore, will be withdrawn by 18th April 1919. If this is clear, I will read this story out to you. And then I want to talk about a little bit about the Khilafat issue and non-cooperation. Yes? Okay. People are not ready in the sense people were very overexcited. Violence would become very common. That is too dangerous. For Satyagraha, you need to be ready. People were not ready in 1919. 6th April 1919, first All India strike. Before April 6th itself, mass-scale resistance, violence, anti-British demonstrations in Calcutta, Bombay, Delhi and Ahmedabad. In Punjab, the situation became more and more explosive because of the fact that wartime repression, forcible recruitments, disease, everything was there. So Punjab was generally very angry. And it also had a very bad lieutenant governor, Michael O'Dwyer, who basically, when he had to disperse people, used to ask the Air Force to do aerial gunning, which is called strafing. So people, if they're protesting here, he used to ask the ship, ask the, what we call as the aeroplanes, to fire on the people so that they would disperse. That is the level of hate he had for Indians. Now, Amritsar was worst affected by violence. In the beginning, there was no violence by protesters. Indians shut down their shops, normal trade and empty streets were there. But on April 9th, Saifuddin Kishdev and Dr. Satyapal will be arrested and taken to unknown locations. This will cause a lot of violence on 10th April, which is called Amritsar violence. And this will create the context in which a lot of things will happen, wherein police will resort to firing, people will get angry, Europeans will be killed, and tensions will run very, very high. And even Marcella Sherwood, a English missionary nun, will be beaten up on her bicycle and thrown into the streets near the Golden Temple in that regard. Thereafter, troops were immediately were asked to come and quell or stop the disturbance. Dyer was a senior British officer with responsibility to impose martial law and restore order, but now you and me know very, very well he did not do that. By then, the city had turned very calm. Protesters had actually gone out. On April 13th, on Baisakhi Day, people from the neighboring cities had come in, not knowing what Dyer had wanted to do. And he had actually said that not more than 3 people could gather together. And on 13th April 1919, a large crowd will gather from neighboring villages in the Jallianwala Bagh, a public event which used to happen every year at Baisakhi festival. Local leaders had also chosen this venue for a small political gathering. And it is not clear how many, but close to 20,000 odd people had collected in this place. Not political protesters, just unsuspecting people. And meanwhile, the meeting had gone peacefully. One of the members had asked that Rowlatt Act should be repealed, and he had condemned the firing which had happened on 10th April. Dyer will reach with his men. Troops will surround the whole sector. He will ask the people, his men, to fire with all exit points blocked. No warning was issued. No instruction to disperse was given. An unarmed gathering of men, women, and children were fired upon. According to British sources, 379 were identified dead, 1,100 wounded. The INC will argue that it will be 1,500 injured, 1,000 dead. So it is very precisely said that 1,650 were fired into the crowd, 1,650 bullets. The incident was followed by uncivilized brutalities and on the inhabitants of Amritsar. Martial law will now be proclaimed across all of Punjab, including Amritsar. Indians were forced to crawl on the bellies down the road where the English missionary had been assaulted. Rabindranath Tagore will give up his knighthood and later will not even, he will get the Nobel Prize, he will give that up also. And the Gandhi will give up his Kesari Hind tag which he had got in the Boer Wars in South Africa. Gandhi will thereafter withdraw the movement on 18th April 1919, ending the story of the what we call as the Rowlatt Satyagraha. The Hunter Commission will be established by Montagu. The Hunter Commission had Lord Hunter as the chairman and three Indians, Sir Chinmanlal Harilal Salvet, Pandit Jagat Narayan, and Sardar Sahibzada Sultan Ahmad Khan. They unilaterally condemned the actions of Dyer, but the commission was all an eyewash. The House of Lords endorsed Dyer's action, and the British public showed solidarity with Dyer by the Morning Post actually collecting £30,000 because he had lost his job, and Rudyard Kipling being one of the most important contributors. The Hunter Commission did not impose any penal or disciplinary action, just asked Dyer to resign. Thereafter, the Congress will appoint Motilal Nehru, C.R. Das, Abbas Taibji, M.R. Jaikar, and Gandhi. Please remember this has come in the examination once. All of these members will form what we call as the unofficial commission, and they will unilaterally criticize Dyer's action as inhumane, and they will call out the fact that Punjab did not have martial law on the day Jallianwala Bagh happened. Now, Udham Singh will take revenge for us on 13th March 1940, when in the Carlston Hall, Udham Singh with the name Ram Muhammad Singh Azad, he will kill Dyer on this day, Dwyer on this day. Dyer had already died in 1927. He will kill the Lieutenant Governor in retaliation as a way of seeking justice for the people who had lost their life in Jallianwala Bagh. And in 1952, Nehru gave him the tag Shahid Udham Singh, and till today he's called Shahid Udham Singh in that regard. The simple point is O'Dwyer and Dyer both were responsible. Dyer died with a disease. O'Dwyer was killed by Udham Singh in that sense. This completes the story of the first phase. Now, but you said INC made its own commission to check about Jallianwala Bagh. It is clear that the commission is illegal. Did not have the. I'm telling you, it said these reports are given, but it has no purpose. So by saying that the people were not ready, aren't you saying the victim blaming? Again, Ishita, what you are doing is the people are not ready according to Gandhi's Satyagraha. I'm not saying that the people deserved to be shot that day. Gandhi had talked about mass nationalism. Gandhi had talked about all India level movement in a peaceful manner. In Gandhian ideology, it is not that people are ready. People will not be ready before 1942 also. According to Gandhi, he had certain rules which people have to follow. If they did not follow, he said that you are not a satyagrahi. That is the concept of people not being ready. Amritsar people were not shot because they were not ready. They were shot because the British were seeking revenge. It is all British responsibility. Nobody is blaming the people who are there in Baisakhi Day. So don't give me this type of this, can't call it that, but basically this victim blaming feminist type of argument. That is not what I'm trying to argue. Right? I'm just saying people not being ready is the concept of satyagraha being not ready. So, very simply, without any doubt, I have since the morning or since the evening taught you two things. First, the Montagu-Chelmsford reforms, which I think took half an hour more. That is why we will not be able to start non-cooperation. But I hope that is worth that half an hour. And you are clear about all the provisions. For the examination chesta, you have to say martial law was passed. Nobody is going to ask you, tell us the story of Jallianwala Bagh. They will rather ask you implications of Jallianwala Bagh. You all are clear about the constitutional history which I taught you. Montagu, Chelmsford, Hierarchy, 1919, implications. Second, I've taught you what is the importance of Rowlatt Act, what is the importance of Rowlatt Satyagraha, Jallianwala Bagh, and how Jallianwala Bagh stopped. Consequence of Jallianwala Bagh is only three things. Gandhi now will fear will fear British retaliation, Rowlatt Satyagraha has been taken back, and very simply the British see that the British now have shown their real face. Non-cooperation is very intricately linked with Amritsar and the concept of Rowlatt Satyagraha. And I hope that you now have a certain picture, because a lot of you were like Jallianwala Bagh, in a way of joylessly looking forward to it. Jallianwala Bagh is not a joke, and I always remember Jallianwala Bagh. If you are talking about it, you have to talk about 10th April, because that will explain why Dyer was seeking that type of retaliation. If we are clear about all of these things, I want to just basically talk about very simple conversation about non-cooperation, which I will do with you also on Monday, because we meet again on Monday now. Can I talk about non-cooperation little bit? Can we compare it's not called black room incident, it's called the black hole incident, and Jallianwala Bagh. Obviously you can't compare. Obviously you cannot compare. Why many teachers don't teach 10th April? They don't know it themselves. That's the point. Or basically what the books will say, they will say. Books will never talk about Amritsar violence. They will never tell you why Jallianwala Bagh actually happened. It's Satyagraha like people protesting not against democratic government. Satyagraha needs patience. People need to show patience. For one thing, Gandhi was very clear. Gandhi was very, very clear that if you do not go by Gandhi's ideals, he will withdraw the movement. No, see, I get your point, Ishita. Understand one thing. We wanted to know more. The point is, Gandhi has shown one thing. If you don't agree with his rules, he will stop the movement. See, Gandhi is very conscious of the capability of the British. Ironically, as soon as Chauri Chaura happens, 26 policemen are burnt by a crowd, Gandhi will withdraw the movement automatically. He'll not wait like Amritsar. He'll not wait like Jallianwala Bagh. He will withdraw the movement automatically. Because it's not that Gandhi is a coward or that Gandhi does not have the capacity to go for a national movement which is very high. Gandhi knew that as soon as we use violence, the British get a chance to do violence. Please understand this point. The British have an outward projection to the world that these nationalists are becoming a nuisance for us. Till you do not do violence, what can the British say? That a person is sitting on a fast. This person is not following a law which says that he cannot cross. The person is, what is non-cooperation and civil disobedience is, it is just to show to everybody that we don't agree with you. If every Indian does one does what happened on 10th April, the British would bring in its army, which you should know very clearly. The British army in the First World War, 3 crore people died. And when I will teach you World War I, you will realize that it was such a trivial issue over which they fought. And if the British could kill or the Europeans could kill 3 crore people of their own in the name of just basic egos, anything could have happened. The British can lie, but the world media will pick it up. So if Gandhi did have so much power to call the unity for India, why didn't he call all Indians and wash away British throne from India? Now again, you are talking like a 2023 type nationalist. So if Gandhi should understand that Indians are facing oppression for a very long time, so he should be well aware of the fact that people will have a lot of rage. So can expect. Yeah, what you are doing is you are accusing Gandhi of stopping the movement, and you are saying that Gandhi should have been more understanding. This is what you're trying to say, right? That Gandhi should have been more understanding, and one of you are saying that every Indian should go and pick up the viceroy and throw him into the Arabian Sea. This is what you're saying. That is not how nationalism works. And second thing is that Gandhi knows that there is rage. Gandhian movement was never about getting independence. Gandhi knew he would never be able to get independence. It was about showing people what to do in a national movement. Doing violence is the easiest thing. Indian independence was never going to come from an 1857 type approach. It was going to only come when there was a proper way in which we made the British so weak and annoyed in India that holding the Indians would have become a problem. Understand this point. You all have this perspective because some people randomly make shots on on Instagram, and some people have no zero understanding, no history degree, talk about history. They will say that War of Independence was also an option. That if we all had fought, we would have won against the British. Please understand this point. If we had fought like 1858 and 59, British would have used so much power that every Indian would have got shot and the British would not have shared or would have not even flinched. 50 to 55% of African population was systematically exterminated by the Europeans over colonialism in Africa. So please understand this point. Only when the British are themselves ready to leave, then the British actually left. And I can be very clear in saying to you that till the British had the capacity and the patience to hold on to India, they held on to India. 1947, they did not leave because Quit India movement had become a success. No, no, no. Because holding India was such a big headache that they said that we have to give up India now. So understand this point. Understand this point. It is already established British never spied from using violence and naval mutiny as RIN mutiny decided to leave India. Again, you are again misinformed. I'll tell you one thing very clearly. British had chosen to leave in 1948. They left in 1947 itself. The British left India in 1947 August, not because of the RIN mutiny, not because of the Quit India movement. We had been doing movements till 1922 only, non-cooperation. Only when the British would choose to leave India, that was the only way in Britishers could be removed. Please understand this point. If you don't understand this point, even Bhagat Singh, by the time he came to be known what he was, he had changed his orientation. Until and unless every Indian rejected the Britisher, ideologically, India would never get independence. Because if we fight with the Britishers, do you really think that 100% of the population would have fought? You tell me. If we fought in 1940 also, would 100% of the population would have fought with the British? And the answer is no. Collaborators, loyalists, people, princely state kings, they would have made sure that how 1857 was not a success, it would not. Why Gandhi is Gandhi? Because he knew that there had to be a way in which we show to the world that India is being held against its will. Show the world the real picture of the British. Make the living hell out of the British in India. Don't cooperate with the Britishers. If you have learned anything from me till this point, you'd have learned one thing. From the first module till the 10th module, and till this point, the Britishers were in India because we allowed them to be in India. Because from Raghunath Rao to Anwaruddin, to every person who gave the British power, Indians were allowing the Britishers to be in India. And the day we all came together, which needed to be together, because moderates were just meeting in a conference and saying, yes, British should go. Killing one officer was never going to remove the British. At the lowest level till the highest level, colonialism should have been understood. And that is the real contribution of Gandhi. Gandhi exposed the British for what they were. Gandhi showed people what to do in a movement, what not to do in a movement. Gandhi is also inherently conservative. I will tell you that. When I will teach you Gandhi, Bose, and Nehru, 1939-40, Gandhi will become irrelevant. Because Gandhi took a call and a stance which neither Nehru agreed to or Bose agreed to. But that is what is Gandhi. Gandhi will never go beyond his ideals, and that is what Gandhi is for you. You call him whatever you want to call him. He is what he is. But the contribution of Gandhi by to next week, Wednesday, Thursday, you will get to know, is to train people, is to train. Nobody till before Rowlatt Satyagraha had ever tried to bring peasant, worker, women, middle class, poor, upper, sub, everything together. So one thing is very clear, that Gandhian, and this is the last point I will say to you, Gandhi's contribution, and this is a very important point I'm trying to push in front of you whilst discussing Jallianwala Bagh, that Gandhi knew the consequences of violence, and Gandhi's importance is not the way he withdrew the movement. It is on training the people what to do in a national movement and what a national movement should look like. You agree with him, you don't agree with him, most of the people, Nehru and Bose, most of the Congress said that Gandhi has lost his mind when he basically took back Chauri Chaura. But the day he took back Chauri Chaura, he knew that Jallianwala Bagh was coming, part 2. So he took back Chauri Chaura, he took back non-cooperation. So understand this point. Non-cooperation shows you struggle through struggle. Jallianwala Bagh was true for Gandhi because it was never going to work that way. So please be very, very clear. In giving solutions, you should remember that India is still a very heterogeneous nation at this point of time. Everybody needs to agree that the British should go. That agreement had not been established till 1919. Between 1919 and 1940, Gandhi will make everybody agree that the British need to go. And the British will also become more and more weak, which I will tell you. That is why world history is equally important to know as much as modern India. The British only went when they were in not a position to hold on to India. When INA trials will backfire on them, something which they had done in 1858 had become a spectacle. And now the British had basically seen the backfire of World War II and the INA trials. Then you will see that how the India had changed. India needed to change. Nobody had changed India. This is the point you need to know. And on this note, have a good weekend. I will see you on Monday. By Friday, we would be reaching independence. Right? Okay. So today, when it comes to our timeline, we have only been able to reach till here. So this timeline I will make from this point to on Monday again, and we will take the story forward. One thing yet not clear: how much portion under princely state? 1/3 of India was still under princely states. I will show you that map on in 1935 when I will tell you. I don't want to complicate your vision of British India. Then you will start to look at India very fragmented way. While violence was never an option. Yes, that is the basic point. Okay, thank you so much. If you don't have a question, you can leave the class. I will see you on Monday. Yes, Charan, that is the point. So I hope, sir, maps asked in exam. No. I hope now at least you have previous question. Seema can only happen once we've covered still CDM. So midweek I will do previous questions. Non-cooperation movement Monday. Non-cooperation, Swaraj is no changer, Simon Commission, Salt Satyagrah, CDM, Gandhi impact, Gandhi Bhagat Singh, thereafter CDM part 2, then Gandhi Bose, August Offer, Cripps Mission, Wavell Plan, Cabinet Mission, then we will have INA, RIN, and then we will have 1947. Lot is left, don't worry. Okay. So I hope your way of understanding modern day is a little bit better than what it was previously, or at least with reading a book, you would only get an idea. I'm trying to basically tell you what is the logic of the Indian national movement. Because people tend to distort that vision very clearly. It's very easy to say we would have said done this and that. Very easy to say that. So thank you so much. I will see you tomorrow on Monday, same time, different issues, non-cooperation. Right? Thank you. Take care and bye-bye. National movement, all years are important. I will tell you that, Ankush. Don't worry.